Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Bottom Line. I'm your host, Burt Miller. Today I'm thrilled I get a chance to spend some time with somebody that I've known for quite a while and is one of the key leaders in the adult beverage world and another one of those sectors in the world of work that is changing rapidly. And I have the regional president of Bacardi North America, Pete Carr. Pete, welcome to the show.
Bert, how are you? Good to see you.
I'm doing well, thank you. I really appreciate you joining us today. So again, as I mentioned earlier, we had a chance to know Pete for some time, and I'm really looking forward to this segment just because where Bacardi was a year ago than what we've experienced, you're going to hear a great evolution through the last 6 to 8, 9 months of what Pete and his leadership team have done at Bacardi. So I'm looking forward to jumping in. And so to kick things off, Pete, I'd really love for you to hear from you if there's a word or a phrase or something as you would describe 2020 so far and how you've used 2020 to best adapt your actions at Bacardi.
Can I swear?
Sure, we'll bleep it out, absolutely.
After crying. No, it's been quite a challenging year and an interesting year to say the least. There's a couple messages that we've gone with, Bert, through this whole thing. And it really starts with the leadership team got together and said, first of all, we want to do what's right for everybody. We don't know what's really happening. Every week something was changed, and even daily things were changing. And we needed to keep the team calm and understand that we're going to do what's right for everybody first and foremost. And really at Bacardi, we really go off 3 F's, and it's about founder's mentality. It's about being fearless, and it's about family. And ultimately, the family sticking together during tough times, whether it's personal or professional. We at Bacardi look at ourselves as family. We call each other primos, which means cousin in Spanish. And that's kind of how we act. It's not so much a corporate environment as much it is as a friendly family environment that we can learn and grow. But really it was about pivot. It was about, I always said pivot times 3. What are you going to do? We really trusted the local teams because here in Miami, I couldn't get anywhere. I couldn't travel anymore. We just started hearing the word Zoom. We just got on Teams with Microsoft. And so we really had to trust people. And you have to have that trust and commitment in your team to really let them go out and make mistakes. I always say fail fast and then figure out what we do from there. But we really entered this when we were closing our fiscal year. And we had a phenomenal year going, and there was no way we were turning back. So we went, stayed in high gear. The show must go on was another message that we had is we got to figure this out. We're going to sell our way out of it. But the most important piece that I think we all learned, whether it be on Zoom, whether it be on phones and communicating with our wholesale network, was just constant communication, checking in on people, making sure that them and their families were fine, and then making sure that they were safe across the board if they wanted to go out in the marketplace or what have you. So it's been a crazy year, but lots of learnings and a lot of growth. I've seen some real people step up and be strong leaders that were before probably a little too quiet. And I think this is how pushed them out as well.
Wow. I really don't know where to go after that. That is the mic drop to kick off an interview. That's going to be the shortest interview I've ever had and probably the most substantial. That's outstanding. And it is interesting, Pete, by the way, you have people that when times in crisis like this hit, you see people that really rise to the occasion and others that you thought were your leaders maybe duck a little bit. And so these kinds of times do bring out the real leaders, without question. So going back to what you said, you talked about earlier, when in 2020, when did the magic moment hit, if you will, where you guys had to huddle and really change your strategy and think about the overall operations when the pandemic hit? When was that?
Oh, I can give you the date. It was March 12th. And the reason I remember it is I got we're closing the fiscal year. So it ends at the end of March. And I got a phone call from Sean Eckhart, our lead for the US sales. And he said, they're not buying. all the commits we had, they're now not buying. And it was like, you got to be kidding me. We anticipated that people would possibly be drinking more. So we thought, this can't be, they can't go back. We're too close. We're having the best year we've had in 12 years. And there's no way I was going to just give up with 2 weeks to go in the fiscal year and not be able to deliver for the company. So that's when I knew it was on. And we also had the foresight a little bit with being a global company to really see what was going on in China and hearing how they shut down. And then it hit Europe and seeing how they started to handle it. And we just didn't, being fearless in a sense, oh, it can't impact us that much, can it? And then all of a sudden, schools shut down. And then parents have to go home. We still got to close a fiscal year internally as well, which is a ton of work. And what we saw was, once again, the team, pivot. Like I said, first thing was make sure everybody's safe and well taken care of and protect jobs. The second thing then was, how do we deliver this fiscal year and just get through with it? And then we'll talk about April, how we enter the next phase. But what I saw from the team was, there's no turning back. We're going to make it. We're going to figure it out. Our distributors partners stuck with us as well, which was fantastic. And they really are the front lines. And, liquor was considered essential, which was great. But at the same time, that's when the team really stepped up and said, we're gonna deliver. Don't worry about it, Pete. We're gonna figure this out as we go. We might have to make some adjustments, but everybody from the finance organization to the PR team, to the communication folks, to the salespeople being out there. My heart still goes out to all the on-premise. There's nothing more valuable in this industry than our on-premise trade partners. And, we've done a ton to support and help them out, but we want to see them get back in businesses as soon as possible. But to watch them, everything they built, all of a sudden disappear and get locked down was hard. It's hard for the industry as a whole, and we want them back sooner than later. But generally speaking, we knew on March 12th that we were in for something. We just didn't know exactly what it was going to be. And I think the key was, we went week by week, made our adjustments, and then that's when we knew we could get through it. And then it was on. And our motto was all in. We came up with that. We just said, hey, look, we're all in this together. You've heard that 1,000 times. And we said, what is our goal for next year? And we said, all in. That means all in on our people, all in on our business, all in on our partners, and make sure that Bacardi makes a difference as to who we are, because we're a family business that's been around for 158 plus years. We want to make sure that continues, because the last thing I want on my watch is not be able to hand this business over healthy to the next leadership team, because it's personal. It's about the family and the Bacardi family as a whole.
Yeah, it's amazing, Pete, when there's a mission and a purpose in place, and bringing the positive energy. Again, as you said earlier, not knowing what to do right away, but bringing the positive energy and that attitude of family and all in. I love the 3 F's, by the way. That's outstanding. So when you think about and staying with the theme, you think about how did you go about identifying the changes or the strategy that you needed to implement?
What's interesting is one thing I always talk to people about is, who are you as a brand? If I say, Bert, who are you in 3 words, or, give me 3 words, not phrases, but 3 words. And to me, it's always about faith. It's about family. I'm a gym rat, love to work out. And then it's about people and work combo. I love work because I love the people I work with and being around people. But if you don't know who you're as a leader and as a brand, you really can get lost. And the other thing I do is I operate the company off one sheet of paper. It's called Plan on a Page. And that's where we really provide the organization direction as to where we're going and what we're doing. And I probably have had that in place for 6 years now. And the entire company feeds off of that one sheet of paper. They know if it's on that one sheet of paper, we're going to do it. We're going to go execute it. And even during the pandemic, we haven't flinched. We never flinched for a minute. We never stopped. We actually never came out of high gear when we came through from March 12th on. And we just said, you know what? we're going for it. We've got to continue to move forward and bring this forward. So it's not so much what we didn't do, it's what we kept doing that made us consistent. Now, did we tweak the business and move people from the on trade to the off trade? Yeah. Did we come up with entrepreneurial solutions to work with the accounts that stayed open to go cocktails? I can't tell you how many times people come up with a bag and putting alcohol in a bag or putting it in a some kind of to-go cup. And we've seen some of the laws change permanently, like in Ohio. So there's been a lot of positive thinking, but the biggest thing we did is people went home. You had to trust them immediately, because if you didn't, your business would crumble. And people actually really stepped up big time, from the field folks being an entrepreneur, let them make local decisions, get rid of all the corporate, and let them drive the business as they see fit. Because New York City was so different than South Florida, than California. And everybody's coming back at different times. And if you try to package it all up and move from a corporate type stance, we would have gotten killed. And I said, look, trust the team. We got them in place for a reason. Give them the resources they need. Let them call audibles, right there in their own town, their own city, and feed us back the information. So every week we get the exec team together and we said, what are we hearing? What's working? What's not working? Stop that. Let's go this direction, share and learn. And so we did a lot of that throughout this time period and continue to do it.
Yeah, and so staying with the theme, just one more question on this, Pete, and then we can move on to something else. But what I really want to spend some time with is, and I know you weren't at Bacardi at that moment in time, back in 2007, 8, 9, that window, but in that recession, anything you learned from that point in time as a leader that you were able to bring forward and apply to 2020?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. If you look at them, they're pretty different, right? So one was a financial crisis, so we knew what caused it. One's a pandemic. We didn't exactly know what it was, how it would impact people. It, would just show up like the flu or whatever. So both were kind of different in the sense. The key learning, I think, is the communication. It's the trusting your people. It's admitting you don't have the answers. I can't tell you how many times I love saying I don't know, but I bet I can find somebody that knows, or somebody else can help us solve that problem. As a leader, you still have to be vulnerable enough to know that nobody had the answers. I mean, you listen to whether Fox News, CNN, whatever, everybody was coming up with their own definition of what they thought was going to happen. You saw states handle it different. And ideally, that's what we went through too. But we trusted one another and we listened to one another, and then we make a decision and then we go. We couldn't be that far off as to what we were doing, but if we did nothing, that would have been the worst thing we did. So I think if I go back and look at 08, when I was with a different organization, and look at now, it really comes down to, do you have a strong leadership team? Do you have conviction? Do you have passion? Do you care for your team? Your team knows when you care about them or if they're just a pawn in the game. And I would tell you, my team and my leadership team, we care about the people deeply. And that really showed and came through as we allow people to continue to work from home. I mean, my kids are older and they're all out of the house now. But I look at people with small families and doing homeschooling. Thank God I'm not their teacher. I mean, I tell you what. But you see the homeschooling. You got to care about that. And we let people book their own office hours. If you got to teach in the morning, teach. If you can work in the evening, you work in the evening. If you got to swap with your partner, so be it. Just let us know how we can work around your schedule so that we can keep the family intact. It's hard enough being cooped up, let alone if you've got a company that's putting a lot of pressure on you. It's almost impossible for people to perform the right way.
Yeah, it's amazing. As leaders, sometimes we think we need to over-index to playing the role that we actually have, when really it's just about communication and humility and leading and being human. And I think you get more out of that than trying to just play the role or the title. So I think that's
integrity too. I think that's a big thing, is it's integrity during, you see what people are like when the pressure hits, right? And that's when you see people crack or change or lash out. And to me, if you're going to do the right thing, it's not the easiest thing, but ultimately that's where you win in the long run.
Yeah, and that's leadership. Now, Hurricane Maria hit Puerto Rico a little bit ago, and you guys, Bacardi stepped up, as Bacardi does, and stepped up for the community and provided aid. How did that experience translate over to the pandemic, and where have you helped certain sectors, whether it be your partners in the hospitality world or just communities in general?
I think if you look back, the thing I started with is primos. It's about family, and it's about caring about one another, whether it be in Puerto Rico or it be here or it be in Europe. It really starts with that as a foundation. And when people go through a traumatic experience like a hurricane, what are we on? I think 28 or 29. I don't even know right now this season. And we've been fortunate they haven't hit South Florida. But anywhere they hit, it's how do we come together as a family, as an organization to help out, because we know they need it. And Puerto Rico, we sent generators down there. We made sure the water was safe to drink. We ran it through our plants and distributed it throughout the community. And the same thing, during this time period as well. If you look at the on-premise that's been hit the hardest, is we did Raise Your Spirits to help the hospitality industry. We spent over $5 million and making sure that we had resources to give out to help the workers. So whether it was the James Beard Foundation or the Restaurant Workers Community Foundation, Tales of the Cocktail, FIU offering free bartending classes to keep people at the top. We did Punch, which servers would come on and make a cocktail and you could tip them through Venmo. So people getting a couple $100 extra bucks to make a cocktail and everybody gives them a couple bucks tip, and you kind of go from there. So it's always about giving back to the community we want to make sure that we do it, but especially during times of need, because it's not easy. Hand sanitizer. I mean, that's the fastest product launch we've ever done. And we gave it to first responders because there was a big need for first responders. And we went to the plant folks and said, can you make hand sanitizer? And they go, yeah. So then immediately we went into production and we passed it out in 14 different of our facilities. Did that, whether it was in Puerto Rico, whether it was in Italy, whether it was here in Jacksonville in the US. So anything we could do that we thought we could help the community out, we handled.
So look, Bacardi is a family-run company. It's a privately held company. How has that helped you from the perspective of being able to adapt and be nimble? Or actually the question is, has that helped you be able to pivot quickly and navigate and being nimble during the crisis?
Oh, 100%. I've worked for private distributor family businesses. I've worked for large public companies, and being in a private family-owned business makes a huge difference. We focus on generations. We focus on a 10-year plan. I don't have to answer quarter to quarter and make rash decisions to bump up earnings. I can go about things the right way, which a lot of times could be the long way. But it's most important as to how we treat the people, how we make our decisions, that they're not, knee-jerk, just ship something out to make a quarter or a period. It's about doing the right thing for the long haul. I mean, we've been around, like I said, for 158 plus years. The last thing I ever want to do on my watch is not turn over a healthy business to the family that's coming up. We see generations of them, and some of them are in the businesses as well. And you're building something that's going to last for an awful long time.
Yeah, without question. And when you think about that, when I think about the digital transformation and some of the pivots that you guys have made this year, and obviously you were able to make, we know roughly, give or take, 75% of the companies here in the U.S. know that they need to address digital transition. More than half of those, Pete, as you may or may not be aware of, know what they need to do but are not there yet. And I know you guys had worked on it for a moment in time, but you not only made the pivot, but from the moment you guys made the decision you had to make a change, you went from brick and mortar to going into the e-com program, if you will, and putting together another channel in the adult beverage world. Talk a little bit about that, because I know a lot of the folks, the consumers, didn't really realize that they
Yeah.
could actually get adult beverage through e-commerce.
No, a lot of people had no clue. So it was a really small piece of the business. E-com, as we were moving in the right direction and had a foundation, and we look at it globally because there's a lot of learnings, and build it down to North America. So we had a foundation as part of our 10-year plan as to how we were going to build it. But when I say we accelerated, what I would have spent in, the next 2 years, I spent in less than 2 weeks. The minute that March 12th date hit, it was like, oh, it's on. This is all going to go e-com. What are we doing with Instacart? Do we have the right amount of people? So part of that pivot was, one, take the resources that we would use for events, activities, sponsorships, all that, and bring it straight over to e-com, drop it in. Go start up that piece and start really partnering with Drizzly, Instacart, all those different companies, whether it be cocktail couriers and the on-trade, all these things, and then really build that discipline. But what was interesting is, I haven't seen this in a long time, but everybody was at the same level, pretty much, in understanding. So everybody had to start. So we have a program called Open 365, which really is about digital learning. And the entire company, including myself, are going through it at the same time. And Garner, one of these companies, really had us do a digital IQ. And it was, how do we build our capabilities? How do we train everybody from admins to office staff to salespeople? How do you start dealing with national accounts now? You got to talk to their e-com people. All that really came into play. So when we accelerated, one is continue to educate your team and build capabilities. You don't stop during anything and teaching people, how to learn and grow. Two was continue to build it up as we go. But the three was, we went into step-up opportunities. We allowed people that were working on marketing, when we cut some of those budgets, and said, hey, look, your job's not going away, but I need you to go figure out digital and start working with the digital people. How do we beat the competition? How do we continue to move forward? And then we have reverse mentoring roles. One of the gals I work with, Epiphany is her name, wonderful, she reverse mentored me. She taught me TikTok. I didn't even know what TikTok was, to be quite honest with you, other than, it was from China and it was a problem. And I've learned a lot from the younger people in the organization. Like I said, well, where do you go get your news? And they go, Twitter. I go, you go get your news on Twitter? That's, is it real? Is it what? And they said, well, if I want to learn more about whatever I found on Twitter, I'll go look at CNN or Fox or whatever it may be and do my own research. But I'm not going to trust the big networks. I'm not going to go to CNN first or Fox first. I'm going to go to Twitter, see what's happening, see what's trending, and then I'll go do my own research. So there are a lot of things like that really came out. And one of the things we learned is, I think it was 2019, there were 2 days that exceeded $2 billion in sales. As of August of 2020, 130 days have exceeded $2 billion in sales. So if you think it's going away, it is not going away. 70% has shifted to online. Bricks and mortar, we still need our liquor stores and chain accounts, but 70% of it we see shifting over a period of time. So we've really looked at 4 areas that we're doing, and it's everything we're doing is integrated around digital. We like to say no dead ends. There's no dead ends in digital. It just continually keeps going. You got to find it. B2B opportunities. For the first time, we can now, through our distributor network, Southern specifically, we can talk directly to our customers that are buying, whether we can educate them on Angel's Envy, educate them on a new product launch like Bacardi Coquito for the holidays. We can start talking to them where we didn't have that in the past. Expand our delivery reach direct to consumers via cocktail couriers, via Instacart, whatever it may be. Consumers now realize, oh, I can click that button and I can buy a bottle of Grey Goose. Oh, and it can be delivered. Oh, and I can get tonic, or I can get the new Bacardi Spice. And oh yeah, I want some Coke with that. So doing that piece. And the last piece is really about drive a competitive advantage at retail with connections to our consumers. And that's what I just talked about as well, is how do we make sure we get that connection and we keep them in the family of Bacardi brands.
Well, along with that communication that you've been showing, Pete, as an organization, as a leadership team, the fact that you've been able to help your team redirect and that trust you built over time, not just under circumstances, but over time and being consistent, allowed you to redirect some of your talent and give them the upskilling they need. And man, how great it is that you have the kind of team that is willing to take that and make those types of adjustments to go down the path and willing to be upskilled. So going forward and thinking about what we've been talking about in terms of the e-com and the digital strategy, what have you learned most about this over the last 6 or 7 months in the digital transition and the e-com that you're going to take forward?
Oh, the first one is just a fast pace. It just moves. I mean, it moves so quick. Two, consumers changing, adjusting. Like my wife never heard of Instacart. I never shopped online for groceries. You bought everything else. But this unboxing moment, it's like Christmas. Every day you come home, you're like, what'd you buy? What's that? You get stuff thrown on your doorstep. Who ever heard of porch pirates until, e-com business went nuts? But it's all evolving and it changes so quickly. And one of the things is people say, well, what's your organization look like? I go, what week? Because every week we're finding out we need to add something different or do something different. And it's not necessarily changing the people, but it's that learning. So that's that constant open 365 that I talked about. It's digital transformation within Bacardi, because we're on this journey every day. And it's what looked like last week has changed. The money we put into this program maybe necessarily didn't pay out, and we can make those adjustments. So that's been the biggest thing. And I think that'll continue to keep us on our toes as we go forward. The liquor industry, if you think about it, it was pretty slow moving, and you've been involved with it for a long time. But I think that's going to put us in the fast moving consumer packaged goods now, and we're going to have to think and act differently. People don't care about the 3-tier system. A lot of them don't understand the 3-tier system. All they know is they want a bottle of Grey Goose or Bacardi delivered at their home when they want it, or a case of beer or that type of thing.
Yeah, you think about it, there's a lot of prehistoric industries and business sectors that are going to not disrupt, but dislocate themselves into really into the forefront of business. It's going to be an amazing transition of businesses and sectors that are going to step up. And the adult beverage is one of those. And when you think about Bacardi, I mentioned earlier, Bacardi is a privately held company, but many may not realize Bacardi is I believe, and quote me if I'm wrong, the largest privately held spirits company in the world. And when I think of Bombay, you mentioned Grey Goose, but Bombay Sapphire Gin, or my favorite, Angel's Envy. And you've already alluded to it just a second ago in terms of consumers' buying habits. I mean, there's going to be brands come out of nowhere because consumers are changing their habits and how they're getting the product today and tomorrow, perhaps. What have you seen in the consumers' buying habits and how that has changed? And what part of those habits do you think are going to go forth even beyond what we're facing today?
Well, I think first, if you talk about the brands that are able to enter the marketplace now that before would have had a very difficult time, whether it's resources. I mean, when you go on Instagram and, purchase, a spot to tell about your brand for, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever you want, you can reach the consumer much differently than you could have 15, 20 years ago. And it's allowed a lot of brands to come to market quite quickly that are very competitive. But as we go forward in this space, I mean, consumers aren't going to walk away. They're going to demand more attention in terms of getting things, and so we've got to give them experience that's worth more, so they can understand and enjoy the brand. So if you take Cocktail Couriers, we did a Bacardi banana mojito. and a daiquiri. So we sent out the entire kit that they can buy. It's just like, the different recipes you can buy online and have the food delivered with everything, packaged up. Doing cocktails is no different in that space. So we've seen as this pandemic goes on, as we've seen our vermouth business, Martini and Rossi vermouth go through the roof, because people are making their home cocktails. I call it home premise now. It's used to go to the bar, and we call that the on premise, as you know, but now it's home premise. You're doing the same activities that you were doing at a bar, but you're making your own Angel's Envy Manhattan, or you're making your own Bacardi daiquiri, or your Grey Goose and cranberry, or whatever you want. So they're taking the things that they used to love to do with their friends and their family, and they're being more intimate with it at home. And that's a way we can continue to connect with consumers, especially as we head into the holidays.
Wow. I tell you, folks, this is not about adult beverage, this interview. This is about leadership. It's about beyond the bottom line, and Bacardi just being one of those companies that has the kind of leadership that is really stepping up. It's no accident that you guys have made the changes that you've made this year to be successful. So it's definitely not about the spirits or adult beverage. Pete, any last comments you would like to make before we get out of here? Because I got to tell you what you've shared with us. I just want to go back, and then I'll let you finish up. Primos, the 3 Fs, fearless, founders, family. There's a lot of takeaways that any company out there can take away from this interview, and I hope those that are listening will do that. So before we get on out of here, Pete, anything else you'd like to finish up with?
Yeah, let me think here a minute. One, thank you for the time, and it's great to see you. I wish we could have gotten together personally, but I would tell people, within that leadership scope it's okay to tell people you care about them. That goes a long way. People want to work for people that they know are genuine, sincere, and care. But I tell people, get ready to pivot. If you get stuck thinking that this is the only way forward, you're going to lose. Have a plan B. You need to have a backup plan no matter what you do in life or in business. And that plan B comes in pretty handily. And your plan B, you'll find out, isn't that far off from your plan A. It just goes back to making those adjustments. And I look at driving 2-prongs strategy as we go forward. One really being around protect and grow my existing business with my existing customers. But then how do I create new value for my new customers, whether it be in the e-com space, or how is on-premise going to come back? How do I add value to those customers and make sure that they come back stronger and healthier? Innovation, what innovation can I create for my customers, for my consumers, so that they're attracted to our brands and want to make sure, whether it be Bacardi RTDs or a special drink like Coquito for the holidays, that type of thing. And the biggest thing I think people need to think during this time is you still have to build internal capabilities. You can't give up on that during any kind of pandemic. Don't get thrown off your game plan just because, I think Mike Tyson says it best, everybody's got a plan until you get hit in the face. Then you're like, but making sure that you continue to invest in your people, because that's going to pay off years and years. And as a family business, we take that seriously. We want to grow and develop talent and leadership talent that continue to build this business for the future. And that's, I guess, really where I'd leave it is we don't have all the answers, but us as a team, we'll figure it out and we'll make sure we get to where we need to be at the end of the day.
Wow. We start with a mic drop. We end with a mic drop. The go all in strategy, it's amazing. It's kind of counterintuitive, right? With when you're facing a crisis, and for those that are prudently bold, like Pete and his team are, the payoff is happening today, and it's going to continue to happen down the future. You don't really realize what you're doing today, and the payoff is happening now. The exponential impact it's going to have on business in the future. So if you take anything away from this show today, man, take that along with you. Pete, thank you so much for joining me here on Beyond the Bottom Line. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. I enjoyed it. Hope to see you soon. And we'll figure it out. We're going to either sell our way out of this, but the show must go on at the end of the day.
Absolutely. Well,
all the best.
Thank you very much. This is Beyond the Bottom Line. I'm your host, Burt Miller. We'll see you next time.